style goat herds or native wild goat herds in Ireland. And on the Kenmare Bay we're lucky enough to have two herds, one on the Goliath Mann here beside us and another on the Tadbrno Islands straight ahead of us there. So some spectacularly big horns there. If you can see them, the rest of them are probably scattered in amongst the woods there. Sometimes also there are deer in the company of the goats, and the deer swim from one side of the bay to the other. They swim from the oak forests back near Kenmare right across the bay to the islands here. So sometimes people are very surprised to see the deer swimming, but they're very, very good swimmers. And in the autumn time you can hear them call into each other. They make a very loud whistle when they're in the rutting season or the mating season. You hear the whistles from miles away. It sounds like stand on the seats beside their mum and dad there.
The seals in the Kenmare Bay. Basically we have two types of seals in Ireland, the grey seal and the common seal. The grey seal lives on more exposed coastlines all along the west coastline of Ireland, and the common seal, and also known as the harbour seal in America, live in the more sheltered waters along the west coast, such as the Kenmare Bay. The common seals stay here the whole year round, feeding, breeding, relaxing. At this end of the bay, we would have a breeding colony or a rookery of approximately 80 to 120 seals. They stay here the whole year round. When the tide is in, they go hunting for fish and shellfish, and when the tide goes out, they come up on the rocks to rest and to sleep. These places that the seals come up on the rocks to rest and to sleep are known as haul-out sites. And this group of seals that we have in the bay, this breeding colony, is called a rookery.
There's a whale of a seal.
The seals grow to be about 5 feet in length and about 120 kilograms in length. The common seals, that is. The other type of seal, the grey seal, which we see sometimes, we have occasional visitors coming to this end of the bay, are the grey seals, and they grow to be between 6 and 8 feet long and up to 330 kilograms or 1/3 of a ton. So they're giants compared to our own little common seal. The grey seal can be easily identified by the shape of its head. It has a rather horse-like head. In fact, in Newfoundland and Labrador, the grey seals are sometimes called the horse's head. The other, the need to be able to swim fast. The perfect shape for the seal to stay warm would be a sphere, like a football. That's the easiest shape to insulate, but he wouldn't be able to swim very fast. In order to swim very fast, he should look like a pencil or a torpedo. But that would mean that he might be very cold. So they're a sort of a cross between a torpedo and a ball. They're as short and as fat as they can be, and their extremities, their forepaws and flippers, are as short as they can be, so that they'll lose the least amount of heat possible. They can swim very fast though. With their tail flippers, they have 2 huge tail flippers, each like a huge webbed fan, each the size of about a diver's fins. These flippers flip side by side as opposed to flat like a dolphin's. In other words, the 2 flippers at the back of the seal are not horizontal, but are parallel to each other, so they hit into each other as the seal swims through the water.
You see the seal might be at the back of the group with the cut on his neck. See where he's obviously had a fight. Now the seals are very nervous, and if you look at the front of the island there, look to the left, up there at 1 o'clock, you might see a seal jumping out of the water in a moment. playful young seal. You might see him jumping out of the water there, just right up ahead of the boat. At about 1 o'clock, he jumped there a moment ago. Playful, one of a pup from 2 years ago. Very playful guy. He's always jumping and playing around when we come, just trying to show off. Anyway, the seal's a little bit nervous there. So everybody please, once again, try to be very, very still. Anybody with a camera, please make sure the electronic flashes on your cameras are switched off.
They are left.
They love fish and shellfish. One of their favourite foods, for example, is crabs. But the crab is big and tall, so what rocks was higher. And also they have clams and clams. So the mother has to teach them and have their lobster pots and fishing nets. The young seals come up under these buoys and they try to lift them up out of the water on the tips of their noses, just like the sea lions do with the beach boys at the zoo. The local fisherman here has a problem with the seals playing with the boys. Sometimes the seals bite through the buoys and puncture them. So the fisherman places some net around the buoy so that when the seal pup tries to play with it, the net will tickle his whiskers and that keeps them away from the buoys. If you're a long way from a rubbish bin or a litter bin, what you can do is take the plastic bags and fishing nets above the high water mark, above the high tide mark, and put a rock on top of them. That way the sunlight will eventually wear them down. But if they get back into the sea, the monofilament nets, the smaller nets, will last for up to 300 years, and the heavier nylon nets, plastic nets, will last for up to 1,000 years. So it's much better to take them up above the high water mark if you can. Now be prepared for a most unusual sight. From time to time, the seals jump completely out of the water like dolphins. They don't jump high in the air and do head over heels and flip-flops and fall back in the water. They just do a simple arching jump. Now most people are amazed to hear that the seals can jump out of the water, but when you consider that their tail flippers, their huge expandable tail flippers, can send them through the water at speeds of up to 30 miles an hour, then it's not so surprising to hear that they can jump out of the water. Anything weighing 120 kilograms and moving at speeds of up to 30 miles an hour, once they point themselves at the surface, they will completely come out of the water in an arching jump. They could clear a fence approximately 2 to 3 feet high at the maximum, but it is still quite incredible to see them jumping out of the water. So be prepared. Now the seals are also in danger from speedboats, and every year on the bay we have up to a half a dozen of our beautiful young seal pups killed by the speedboats. Sometimes when the pups and mothers are swimming out in the bay, when they come to the surface, suddenly there is a high-speed boat bearing down upon them. Sometimes they can't swim out of the way fast enough, and the propellers will kill them. The speedboats don't have to hit the seals to kill them. All they have to do is drive very fast up and down the bay. Some of the speedboats have very big engines, and these huge engines create what's known as a very big wash or a wake behind the boat. These are the waves that fan out behind the boat. 15 minutes after the speedboat has gone up the middle of the bay, the big wave that it makes has fanned out across the bay and is approaching the island where the pups are. In July, when the pups are born, the mothers always keep the pups on the very edge of the water, so that if there's any danger, they can get the pup into the water straight away. These big waves or wash from the speedboats arrive close to the island's edge, and as they go into the shallow water, they swell in size, building in height like a wave on a beach, and then crash right along the edge of the rocks, sometimes smashing the young pups against the rocks. In other bays in Europe, where we'd have colonies of breeding seals or rookeries of seals like this, you would have exclusion zones keeping casual or pleasure boats well away from the seals, also reducing their speed so there won't be a wash created. But sadly, while the seals are protected in Ireland, we don't really take good care of them. This is a pity. The seals are a very cuddly, gorgeous animal, and they're a very good ambassador for the rest of the wildlife. The seals, in our opinion on Seafari, should be looked after a lot better, because they can inspire us to take a greater interest in our environment and in the wildlife around us. They're like the koala bears, the panda bears, the dolphins, and the whales.
Everybody very still, please. There's some little movement that somebody made now. Or a flash on a camera. The least movement can scare the seals. Unless there's sometimes if a speedboat comes around, it'll do the same. Any other boat comes within 500 or 600 meters of us. Just ask everybody in the back just to please remain seated, please.
There are also many legends and stories about the seals, and people living all the way up and down the west coast of Europe, especially in Ireland, Scotland, Wales and Norway, have many beliefs that when somebody is lost or drowned at sea and their body isn't found, that sometimes these people come back as seals in the next life.